There was a time when growing older meant settling into a quiet companionship, a predictable rhythm of life shared with a partner. But today, more and more older women are choosing a different path, one of independence, solitude, and self-discovery. It's not about loneliness. It's about freedom, about finding peace in one's own company, and about embracing life on their own terms. For many women in their 70s and beyond, choosing to be alone is not a resignation. It's a conscious, empowering decision. The idea that a woman must always be part of a couple, that her happiness depends on the presence of a partner, is one that society has long upheld. But as the years go by, perspectives shift. Many women who have spent their younger decades devoted to family, to marriage, to the demands of others, suddenly realize they don't want to spend their later years bound by the same expectations. They have done their part, raised children, cared for spouses, nurtured careers, and supported households. And now, they want to live for themselves. One of the biggest reasons why older women choose solitude is the sheer joy of having control over their own lives. After a lifetime of compromises, of worrying about another person's needs, of making sacrifices for the sake of a relationship, they finally reach a stage where they don't have to. They can wake up when they want, eat what they please, travel without consulting anyone, and enjoy the things that bring them happiness without explaining themselves. It is a kind of liberation that many women didn't even realize they craved until they experienced it. Of course, this choice isn't always understood by those around them. Society still often views a single older woman with a degree of pity, as if she must be missing something essential. Friends and family might ask, "Don't you get lonely?" But the truth is, loneliness and solitude are two entirely different things. Being alone does not mean being isolated. Many of these women cultivate rich social lives, full of friends, hobbies, and meaningful connections. They simply don't feel the need to be romantically involved to feel complete. In fact, for some, the idea of starting a new relationship in their later years feels exhausting rather than exciting. They have already navigated the ups and downs of love, the compromises, the heartbreaks, and the emotional labor. The thought of going through it all again, of adjusting to someone else's habits, of dealing with their health issues, of merging lives, is simply not appealing. They know themselves better now than they ever have before, and they cherish that self-awareness too much to give it up for the sake of convention. Another major factor is that many older women have seen firsthand what long-term relationships can look like in old age. They have witnessed friends caring for ailing spouses, watched women around them become caregivers rather than partners, and seen how much of the emotional burden still falls on the woman, even in later years. The idea of spending their 70s, 80s, and beyond in a role of caretaking rather than truly enjoying life is not one they are willing to accept. Choosing to be alone is often an act of self-preservation, a way of ensuring that their later years are spent in peace rather than obligation. Finances also play a role in this decision. Many older women today are more financially independent than previous generations. They have pensions, savings, or even part-time work that allows them to live comfortably without relying on a spouse. This financial independence gives them choices that their mothers and grandmothers never had. They don't have to stay in a marriage for security. They can stand on their own, and they are proud of it. Perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of this choice is the rediscovery of self. Many women, after years of prioritizing everyone else, finally have the time and space to explore who they are outside of their roles as wives, mothers, or caregivers. They take up painting, join book clubs, travel to places they've always dreamed of, or simply relish the joy of a quiet morning coffee with no one else to consider. It is a chapter of life that is not about loss, but about renewal. Of course, not every woman makes this choice. There are many who still long for companionship, who find love and partnership in their later years, and who thrive in that dynamic. But for those who choose to be alone, the decision is not one of sadness or regret. It is one of autonomy, of finally living life on their own terms, free from the expectations and obligations that once defined them. And as society continues to evolve, perhaps the way we view older single women will evolve too. Perhaps we will come to understand that a woman alone is not a woman left behind, but a woman who has stepped forward into a life she has chosen, into a peace she has embraced, and into a future that belongs entirely to her. There is a quiet revolution happening, one that doesn't make headlines, but is deeply significant in the lives of many older women. It is a realization that solitude can be a source of strength, that independence can be more fulfilling than companionship, and that life does not have to follow the traditional path of coupledom in order to be rich and meaningful. For many women in their 70s and beyond, the decision to remain single or live alone is not simply about avoiding the complications of relationships. It is about reclaiming a sense of self that may have been overshadowed by years of responsibilities, expectations, and societal norms. They are choosing to be alone not out of necessity, but out of a deep understanding of what brings them peace, joy, and fulfillment. One of the most profound aspects of this choice is the ability to live without compromise. Relationships, no matter how loving or stable, require negotiation of time, of space, of habits, and even of dreams. After decades of making room for the needs and desires of others, many older women feel a profound sense of relief at the idea of simply living for themselves. They no longer have to adjust their routines to accommodate a partner's preferences, nor do they have to manage the emotional labor that often comes with being in a relationship. Instead, they can focus entirely on their own well-being, interests, and happiness. This newfound autonomy often leads to a renaissance of sorts. Women in their 70s and beyond are taking up new hobbies, pursuing lifelong passions, and immersing themselves in activities that bring them joy. Some find solace in nature, spending hours gardening or walking through parks. Others immerse themselves in creative pursuits like painting, writing, or music, things they may have set aside in their younger years in favor of raising families or supporting spouses. Still others dive into social engagement, joining clubs, attending cultural events, or volunteering in ways that feel deeply meaningful to them. The ability to structure life according to one's own desires also brings an unexpected sense of adventure. Many older women find that being alone allows them to be more spontaneous. They can travel without consulting anyone else, take up last-minute invitations, and explore opportunities that might have been difficult to navigate within a partnership. Whether it's embarking on solo travel, taking a class in something they've always been curious about, or simply enjoying the freedom of an unstructured day, these women are discovering that solitude can be incredibly liberating. Yet, despite the many advantages of choosing to be alone, there are still societal misconceptions about what it means to be an older single woman. Many people assume that being alone must mean being lonely, that these women must be longing for companionship, or that they are missing out on something essential. But this assumption fails to recognize that loneliness is not about physical solitude. It is about emotional disconnection. And many of these women are anything but disconnected. They have deep, meaningful friendships, often richer than those found in traditional relationships. They have support systems built on shared interests and mutual respect rather than obligation. They cultivate relationships that are free of expectation, where they are valued for who they are rather than what they can provide. Some form close-knit communities with other like-minded women, creating a sense of family outside of conventional structures. Others maintain strong connections with their children, grandchildren, or extended families, all while maintaining their independence. For some, the choice to remain single in their later years also comes from an honest acknowledgement of past experiences. Not every woman has had a fulfilling or happy romantic history. Some have been through difficult marriages, have lost spouses, or have faced disappointments in love. For them, the idea of re-entering a romantic relationship is not appealing. It is simply unnecessary. They have learned to find happiness within themselves, and they no longer seek validation or companionship in the form of a partner. And then there is the simple truth that many older women no longer feel the need to be defined by their relationship status. In earlier decades, being married or a partner was often seen as a sign of success, stability, or social acceptance. But as they age, many women come to realize that their worth is not tied to whether or not they are with someone. They embrace their identity as individuals, rather than as part of a couple, and they find power in that self-assurance. None of this means that choosing to be alone is without its challenges. There are moments when solitude can feel heavy, when there is a desire for companionship or the comfort of a shared life. But for many, the benefits far outweigh the occasional longing. They have come to appreciate their own company, to find joy in their independence, and to recognize that the love and fulfillment they seek can be found in many forms, not just in romantic relationships. As more and more women make this choice, society will need to shift its perspective. Rather than seeing older single women as lonely or unfulfilled, we must recognize them for what they truly are: strong, independent individuals who have chosen a path of self-discovery, peace, and personal fulfillment. The golden years are not about fading into the background. They are about stepping into a life that is fully one's own. There is something truly remarkable about a woman who reaches her later years and decides to walk her own path, not out of bitterness or resignation, but out of choice. It is a quiet yet powerful statement, one that speaks of strength, self-awareness, and a refusal to settle for anything less than what truly makes her happy. For many women in their 70s and beyond, choosing to be alone is not about avoiding love, but about embracing a different kind of love. The love of self, of freedom, of living life without restrictions. The world has long told women that they are at their best when they are part of a pair, that their value is in their ability to nurture, to support, to be someone's wife or partner. But those who choose to be alone in their later years have rewritten that narrative. They have found fulfillment not in traditional roles, but in the ability to define their lives on their own terms. And they are happier for it. One of the most striking things about this shift is that it is not rooted in loneliness or fear of relationships. Many of these women have loved deeply in their lifetimes. They have known passion, companionship, and commitment. Some have experienced wonderful marriages. Others have weathered difficult ones, and some have faced profound loss. But through it all, they have come to understand something fundamental. Their happiness does not depend on another person. It comes from within. The beauty of solitude is that it allows for a kind of peace that is often elusive in relationships. Without the weight of another person's needs or expectations, women in their later years find themselves able to truly listen to their own desires. They can wake up and decide how they want to spend their day without compromise. They can eat what they want, sleep when they want, travel where they want, all without negotiation. It is a freedom they may never have had before, and they treasure it deeply. This doesn't mean they reject love or companionship. Many have close friendships that bring them deep joy and fulfillment. These friendships, often built over decades, offer support, laughter, and connection without the complications that can come with romantic entanglements. They attend social events, join clubs, take up new hobbies, and engage with the world in ways that are meaningful to them. They are not shut off from relationships. They are simply more selective about the ones they allow into their lives. There is also an undeniable practicality to this choice. Many older women have watched their peers navigate the challenges of later life relationships, and what they see does not always appeal to them. They have witnessed friends become caregivers to spouses with declining health, taking on physical and emotional burdens that can be overwhelming. They have seen relationships become sources of stress rather than comfort, as aging partners struggle with health issues, financial strains, or simply the difficulty of adjusting to a new dynamic late in life. It is not that they lack compassion or the willingness to care for someone. They have done it before. But now, They choose to care for themselves first. Financial independence plays a significant role in this decision as well. Unlike previous generations, many women in their 70s today have their own means of support. They have worked, saved, and planned for their futures in ways that allow them to be self-sufficient. They do not need a partner to provide stability or security. They have created that for themselves. And with financial freedom comes the ability to make choices based on desire rather than necessity. There is a quiet but growing movement of women who are embracing this phase of life with open arms, rejecting outdated notions of what aging should look like. They are traveling, learning, creating, and finding joy in the simple things. They are proving that a woman alone is not a woman who has been left behind. She is a woman who has stepped forward into a life that is fully hers. The most important thing to understand about these women is that their choice is not one of deprivation, but of abundance. They are not missing out on love. They have an abundance of it in many forms. They are not missing out on companionship. They have friendships and communities that uplift them. They are not lonely. They are content. As society continues to evolve, perhaps the way we view aging will evolve as well. Perhaps we will come to celebrate the independence of older women rather than question it. Perhaps we will recognize that there is immense beauty in a life lived fully, regardless of whether it includes a romantic partner. For those who have spent their lives giving, sacrificing, and putting others first, these later years are a chance to finally put themselves at the center. It is a time for growth, exploration, and self-discovery. It is a time to embrace the simple joy of living life exactly as they want to, without apology, without compromise, and without the need for permission. And so, for the many women in their 70s and beyond who are choosing to be alone, this is not a sad story. It is a triumphant one. It is a story of courage, self-respect, and the realization that happiness is not something granted by others. It is something we create for ourselves. At the end of the day, life is about making choices that bring us the most peace, joy, and fulfillment. For many older women, that choice means embracing solitude, not as a burden, but as a gift, a chance to fully enjoy life on their own terms. It's about finding happiness in the quiet moments, in the freedom to do as they please, and in the knowledge that they are whole, just as they are. The world is changing, and so are the expectations around aging and relationships. No longer is being single in one's later years seen as a misfortune. Instead, it is increasingly recognized as a valid, empowering choice. Women in their 70s, 80s, and beyond are proving that you don't need a romantic partner to have a rich, meaningful life. They are exploring, learning, laughing, and creating without the weight of obligation holding them back. It's an exciting time, really, because as more women choose this path, society has no choice but to acknowledge their independence and celebrate their freedom. And hey, let's be honest for a second. There are definitely perks to living alone. You never have to share the remote. You can eat breakfast for dinner without anyone raising an eyebrow. You can read late into the night without the sound of snoring in the background. Your home stays exactly the way you like it. And let's not forget the most underrated joy of all, never having to explain why you need yet another pair of comfortable shoes or a new teapot for your ever-growing collection. It's the little things, really. Of course, some people will always ask, but don't you get lonely? And sure, there may be moments when a bit of company would be nice. Someone to chat with over coffee or to share an afternoon walk. But companionship comes in many forms. And those who have chosen this lifestyle know that life is full of love, even without romance. Whether it's through deep friendships, family bonds, or even the company of a beloved pet, there are countless ways to fill life with warmth and connection. So, if you're watching this and you're one of those women, or you're thinking about whether this path is for you, just know that you're not alone. You are part of a growing movement of strong, independent women who are redefining what it means to age with grace and confidence. And that's something to celebrate. Before you go, I just want to say I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the latest uploads. We've got plenty more great topics coming your way, and I'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. Take care, and I'll see you next time.